I think we're all set to get started. Well, welcome everybody, and welcome to the first of our two-part series called My Major, My Career, specifically for justice impacted students. My name is Haley Brown, and I'm one of the student services coordinators at UMA. And in this capacity, I'm responsible for coordinating career services for both our current students and alumni. The My Major, My Career series is designed to assist students in exploring the diverse career pathways available within their respective degree programs. And to date, we've have featured programs such as mental health and human services, business, liberal studies, and the computer information systems program, among others. Recognizing the unique considerations within the PEP program, we're really happy to be able to include it in the series. It is now my distinct honor to introduce the president of the University of Maine at Augusta, Dr. Jennifer Cushman, who will be offering opening remarks for our session. Please join me in extending a sincere welcome to President Cushman.
Thanks, Haley, and hi, everyone. I'm happy to be able to welcome you to the My Major, My Career session. And I understand you're all close to a life transition, so congratulations. And UMA is really here to help you, help guide you in that transition, because it's what we do. We're proud to meet students where they are. We deliver, I'd say, a truly transformative educational experience by breaking the barriers between students and their dreams of earning a degree. And as you know, we offer multiple options for attending class online, in person, at locations throughout the state, including, as you know, at correctional facilities. We do this because we are proud to serve all populations, including you. UMA's mission is to serve the whole student. This takes into account extenuating life circumstances. And this has made us a valuable partner with the Maine Department of Corrections for almost 20 years. I don't know if you know, but that's how long this partnership has been. I think the DOC understands the power of education to transform lives, and I hope that you do as well. I'm still a fairly new president of UMA. I've been in my role less than 2 years. But I did make a point of visiting all of our locations my first semester, fall 2023, to gain an understanding of the breadth and depth and impact of UMA's access mission across the state. So I did visit Maine State Prison that fall and then the Wyndham facility this past year. And when I visited the Maine State Prison my first fall of 2023, I attended Steve Morrow's debate class. I don't know how many of you may have taken that class, but I expect he is representative of our UMA professors. I was really impressed with his ability to convey not only the subject matter of his class, which is parliamentary debate, but its broader importance in encouraging civil discourse in a democratic society. And it reminded me why I'm here in this particular position at this particular higher education institution. And I've attended and served many different types of higher ed institutions. So I believe I am justified in asserting that UMA is way ahead of the curve on meeting the higher education needs of the 21st century. And I hope you see that too. And know that we are proud to serve you and eager to support you along the next stretch of your journey that's coming up. So I hope the session is meaningful for you and that we are able to meet you where you are and help get you where you want to be. Thank you.
Thank you, President Cushman. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And
so I'm going to go ahead and take off, but it's nice to see everyone and have a good evening.
Thank you, President Cushman.
Okay, see if I can get this to work here. Okay, perfect. Okay, so can everybody see the screen? Excellent, okay. Okay, so here's the agenda for this evening's session. I will be covering common UMA programs, career paths, salary information, and the importance of transferable skills. Next, Patrick Flynn, our PEP Student Services Coordinator, will speak about the reentry process. And then we will also have Pine Tree Legal here to talk about knowing your rights as a job applicant. And then to end the evening, we will have a Q&A session led by Katie Ebert, sorry, Katie, our Student Services Coordinator at the UMA Rockland Center. So let's move on to the next session. So as we've kind of talked about earlier, you know, education is a very powerful tool for change. And we feel very lucky to work with talented individuals like yourselves who are eager to learn and contribute to society. UMA is here to help match your skill sets with majors that can open up career options for you. And as I mentioned, I'm here to discuss those programs that lend themselves well to you as students and to help you develop those crucial skills and help you plan your career pathway post-graduation and release. So here are some of the most common majors that PEP students seek out at UMA. So the first one is liberal studies, and this is a great program because you can design your own program essentially and be able to explore a variety of areas and tie it up with a nice bow at the end. The next program is mental health and human services. This is a popular program because many students have had a lot of life experience and then want to be able to help others improve their own lives. They've been there. They want to bring folks, to where they can be successful. And then we, of course, have business administration. The business program has a lot of subject areas and skills that are applicable to many fields, such as management, finance, marketing, and entrepreneurship. All companies have the need for managers. They all have accounting people. They also have marketing people. So it's a good way to kind of apply those skills. Computer information systems is becoming a popular one because the technology sector is experiencing rapid and continuous growth, leading to a high demand for skilled professionals in areas like software development, web development, data analysis, cybersecurity, and more. We also have the English degree, and the English degree emphasizes developing clear, concise, and persuasive writing and communication skills, as well as critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which can be applicable to many areas. And then the last one I'm going to touch on today is social science. And this is another popular program because it can help people understand societal issues and their own experiences, develop those critical thinking and problem solving skills, formulating arguments, and like mental health and human services, the potential for careers are focused on helping others and social change. I do want to put a bit of a disclaimer here. These degrees can lead to many careers, and while opportunities are growing for justice impacted individuals, hiring practices will continue to vary. And it is important to note that we'll explore the possibilities with a realistic understanding of the landscape. So now within those majors, we're going to cover some of the common jobs that people go for and what you can expect to earn in these jobs. So the first one I wanted to put up there was a substance abuse counselor, because this is one of the ones that I see a lot of folks, again, seeking out just because they want to be able to help other people change their lives. As you likely already know, substance abuse counselors counsel clients or patients, depending on the setting, and they can do this in either individual settings or in group settings. They can help them overcome dependencies, adjusting to life, or making changes. And on average in Maine, substance abuse counselors earn about $53,000 a year. Now, this is not going to likely be the starting wage, just so that you know, but this is on average what people are making in that particular field. The next area I wanted to touch on or a couple of them are within the IT field. Software developers, they build software applications using programming languages such as Python, Java, JavaScript, C++, and SQL, or creating data management systems, or in the web designer realm, obviously designing websites. And they can also make sure that they're user-friendly, engaging to the visitor, and are in line with what companies are looking for. For software developers, on average, they make about $113,000 a year in Maine, and web designers tend to make about $84,000 a year. So just something to think about. Operations managers, this is a unique sort of position because it's kind of the center of the business. This is a position that kind of keeps everything going. Whether it's managing resources, improving processes, and solving problems. In the Maine average, they make about $93,000 a year. So it's a pretty neat gig. I also wanted to put in there a writer and author, because this is a career or a position that can be applicable to many careers, whether you can go into editing or freelance work. In any case, you're preparing written materials such as scripts, stories, advertisements. So, perhaps going into marketing and other material. The Maine average is about $78,000 a year. And the last one, which I do see a lot of, especially if you like to be your own boss, starting your own business could be a potential viable path because, again, you can control your hiring practices, set your own hours, set your own rates. So if you'd like to be in charge, that could be a really good way to make it in the world. So while it's important to know common career paths within majors, it's just as important to be able to communicate your skill set to employers. And this is commonly referred to as transferable skills. So let's jump into that. So transferable skills are abilities and knowledge that you can use in many different jobs and industries and are acquired through any part of your life that can be used in the workforce, such as time management, teamwork, resilience, etc. So why are these skills important for justice impacted individuals? Well, one of the first things, it helps to bridge employment gaps. A record can create barriers to entry in specific fields. So highlighting those transferable skills will allow you to demonstrate your value beyond your past. This is what happened. This is what I've learned along the way, and this is how I can help your business achieve its goals. It's also important to leverage diverse experiences. Experiences that are gained before, during, or even within the justice system can cultivate valuable transferable skills, as I mentioned. Resilience, problem solving in challenging environments, teamwork in structured settings. And then it's also a good idea because it can help you focus on the potential. Being able to emphasize your transferable skills can shift the focus from past mistakes to future capabilities and potential contributions. These skills can also serve as a solid base for new job-specific skills through further education and on-the-job training. And then the last one I wanted to mention here is it can also help build confidence. Recognizing and articulating your transferable skills can empower you and potentially help you boost your self-esteem during the job search. And so I wanted to go to this next slide, and I put kind of like a matrix of the typical transferable skills that you might come across in job postings and things like that. And I wanted to focus it more on how the skill might or could be developed in a correctional setting, and then how you can use it in the workforce. So, for example, having resilience. Because you're being incarcerated, it's a matter of navigating the challenges and hardships of it. But then it also, when you're applying it to the workforce, it also includes overcoming your setbacks, adapting it to new situations, and maintaining a positive attitude in the face of workplace pressures. Time management, adhering to strict daily schedules and routines. This can translate into meeting deadlines, prioritizing tasks effectively, and organizing efficiency or work efficiently. Teamwork, being able to participate in work assignments, group activities, and daily communal living. That translates over into collaborating effectively with colleagues, contributing to team goals, and fostering positive working relationships. Problem solving, it's all about problem solving. So finding solutions to everyday challenges and navigating complex social dynamics within the institution. This can translate into being able to identify and resolve workplace issues, thinking critically to find effective solutions, and adapting to unexpected challenges. And then communication, interacting with correctional officers, staff, and other incarcerated individuals. This can turn into being able to express ideas clearly, listening attentively to instructions and feedback, and interacting professionally with supervisors and colleagues. Having a good work ethic, being able to complete your assigned tasks and responsibilities within the institution. This can show that you can demonstrate reliability, punctuality, diligence, and a commitment to fulfilling job duties. And then the last one is, developing the technical and vocational skills. So, if you have the opportunity to participate in any of the vocational training programs, such as carpentry, culinary arts, IT, etc., being able to perform job-specific tasks effectively and contributing to an organizational operational needs and being able to potentially lead, it will potentially lead to career advancement. So lots of good stuff here, a lot of information to digest. But I wanted to put this up here because, while you have the hard skills, it's also important to focus on the soft skills because, again, these are the things that you can use to be able to fit into most any workplace that you come across. Okay, so I'm very excited to be able to share with you a success story, and his name is Christopher Poulos. He is a powerful testament to resilience, transformation, and the profound impact of second chances. Let's see. So even as a little boy living in Portland, Maine, Chris was drawn to the weight of words in his grandfather's law books. He saw them not as just legal documents, but as stories of people's lives, and a fascination that planted the seed of a dream to become a lawyer himself. But life took a detour. Starting in his early teens, Chris battled addiction, a struggle intensified by a series of profound losses. So he lost his stepfather at sea, his friend was murdered, and his beloved grandfather passed away in his arms. And this trauma fueled his descent into homelessness and a desperate attempt to survive, even leading him to sell drugs. So at 24, Chris reached his breaking point and found sobriety. And months later, a knock on the door brought the FBI. His past had caught up with him, and he was convicted of drug trafficking, facing years in a federal prison. But even behind bars, a spark remained, and witnessing the inequalities of the justice system firsthand solidified his childhood dream. He would still become a lawyer. Upon his release, Chris faced the daunting task of convincing the legal world, to look beyond his record. And a meeting with the Maine Law School dean was initially discouraging, and the dean questioning his viability in the profession. But Chris had a powerful response. Why are you giving me a life sentence? And that kind of resonated with the dean. So he was accepted, and even an internship in the White House required navigating a rigorous security clearance. But it was a moment of incredible triumph for him once he finally got the call that said, yep, you can complete this internship. Passing the bar, he was able to do. It was his first hurdle, and then he had also proved that he had a good character. And after a stressful hearing, he was finally admitted. And now Chris leads the Reentry Council in Washington State, shaping policy and guiding those who are still incarcerated. So I wanted to share this short video with you, kind of what he's doing in Washington State. This was done, I think, a couple of years ago on the Today Show. So I met Chris at a conference. He was a keynote speaker, and he was phenomenal. And I was so inspired by his story that I wanted to share it with you all. So let me go ahead and let's see. Oh, that's not it. Okay.
In the United States, there are more than 1,500 state prisons, and just
Can all of you hear that? Okay.
over 100 federal lockups. That's to go with several thousand local jails and juvenile detention facilities. Together, they hold nearly 2 million people. The ostensible goal of incarceration is both punishment and rehabilitation. But the prison system always has done a much better job of the former than the latter. In our Sunday Spotlight, Harry Smith looks at a new approach in one state that aims to change that.
This is for people who are at the very highest level of security.
We are in a cell block in a penitentiary in Washington State with Christopher Poulos, a section called the Intensive Management Unit.
It's harmful. In one word, it is harmful for somebody's mental health, for physical health. IMU is the opposite of normalization.
Chris Poulos is more than a little familiar with incarceration. He spent almost 3 years in federal custody on felony drug charges.
I can tell you the first time I went back into a prison, I felt kind of nauseous. I wasn't sure. It was an overwhelming sensation.
In his late teens, Poulos was constantly skirting trouble. Fueled by drugs and alcohol, an arrest provided an epiphany.
When I left jail that day and left behind a lot of folks who were just like me, but primarily black, brown, and lower income white folks, I became committed at that point that someday I would become an attorney and work to change the system.
Remarkably, that is exactly what he's been doing, including a stint at the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy under Barack Obama. Today, Poulos works for the Washington State Department of Corrections.
So really trying to create a correction system that addresses trauma rather than compounds trauma.
It's a first-of-its-kind position, the Director of Person-Centered Services, where he crisscrosses the state.
I want to change the us versus them mentality.
Yes.
Listening.
We feel like we don't have a voice.
To the incarcerated.
I think if there was a little bit better communication, I think it would be easier for the inmates as well as the staff.
And to people who watch over them.
I like that one-on-one. It shows them a little bit of who we are.
As a former insider, he has street cred.
I'm not only focused on the wellness and well-being of the incarcerated, I'm focused on the wellness and well-being of the staff too. There's a shocking figure that the average life expectancy for a correctional worker in the United States is 59 years old.
Who knew? He brings those messages to legislators and has a direct line to the state secretary of the Department of Corrections.
They were craving more access to employment, training.
But can a more humane culture lower rates of recidivism? Or will it make prisons less dangerous? Poulos says yes. It's worked in Norway, where their mantra is,
People go to court to get punished and go to prison to become better neighbors.
Poulos has been there and studied the system. In fact, he's hopeful of similar progress here.
The fact is, almost everyone who's incarcerated will be returning to our communities. So we have to ask ourselves, what kind of neighbors do we want to have when they come out?
Good question. For Sunday Today, Harry Smith, Shelton, Washington.
Okay. So as I said, I was very moved by his background and his history and the fact that he's affecting change. He's an amazing human. And in a lot of the reading that I did up of him, I found a quote that I wanted to share with you. And it says, "Never believe anyone who tells you that you can't go somewhere because of where you've been, or that you can't do something because of what you've done. Instead, show them how." And to close out this section, it's important to acknowledge that while education from UMA offers a powerful pathway to change, the journey ahead for justice-impacted individuals will have its challenges. Your eagerness and your talent to learn are significant assets, and UMA is committed to equipping you with skills and academic foundations through programs like these. These fields, from counseling to technology and business, offer promising avenues, and your transferable skills are valuable bridges to employment. And again, I just want to remind you that it is important to remember that hiring practices can vary still, and overcoming barriers will take persistence. But our aim is to provide you with tools and knowledge to navigate this landscape realistically, build upon your strengths, and pursue meaningful opportunities for a successful reentry in future. So, and with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Patrick Flynn to talk about reentry. So take it away, Pat.
All right. Thank you, Haley. And I want to welcome Peter and Brian, two of my students. In fact, I'll be seeing them tomorrow. So welcome both of you. I appreciate the fact that you're attending and that you're interested in this. And anything that we talk about tonight, we can talk about tomorrow as well. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and just talk a little bit about how reentry works at UMA. Not going to spend a lot of time on it because I think that you've already heard some of this, but just kind of as a reminder. Reentry support started at UMA in August of 2023, when I was hired as the first reentry specialist. And one of the things that I try to do is connect people with UMA services when they come out. So at UMA, when you're in community, you can access Haley's employment services, career connections. You can access the fitness centers. You can go see financial aid advisors in person. We offer counseling to all UMA students, and that would be available to you as well. You can access the libraries, use the Wi-Fi there, the materials, the reference librarian, and so on, help with research. There's food service available at both the Bangor and the Augusta campuses. We offer dental care to all students at a low cost in Lewiston and in Bangor. And then, of course, there's IT. You can go see them in person if you'd like. Although I think they do better by email, but you can definitely go see them in person as well. And then you may have already taken advantage of tutoring by Zoom. You can do that when you're in community as well, but you can also meet people on campus for that. And then, like I said, there's the reentry specialist. So I'm with you until you graduate. And so our philosophy of reentry is that we work for you. You know, UMA works for you, I work for you. Our whole purpose is to help you transition when you come out and maintain your education, you know, help you persist in your education. So that means that, as I've already done with the two of you, we start by meeting in facility, and then we'll meet in person when you release. I'll do that perhaps on the day that you release or whatever day is convenient for you. We provide every student who comes out with a laptop, and that's so that they can continue their education and not worry about trying to find a device in order to do that. We will have regular check-ins. I'll text you, we'll email, we'll Zoom, we can meet in person, whatever fits your situation when you're out is the way that we'll communicate and the way that we'll get the work done. And I will be your academic advisor all the way until you graduate. You do have the opportunity to choose somebody else if you'd like, but you're guaranteed to have me. And then I'm your liaison between whatever happens in your life and the department, the person, the resource at UMA that might support you. So you're welcome to always start with me, and then we'll figure out what the right answer is and who the right person is to talk to. And then I would give you referrals to outside organizations as well. So let me stop sharing. So Brian and Peter, you'll have a chance to ask questions at the end of this, and I'm sure you've got some for Haley and you've got some for me as well. I also assume that you'll have some for Jonathan. So I'd like to introduce Jonathan Sarbeck, who is an attorney. He was a former district attorney. I met Jonathan through the Maine Reentry Network's weekly meeting every Tuesday morning. The Maine Reentry Network brings anywhere from 60 to 80 people together who work on reentry and on recovery. It's a terrific meeting. There are people at MSP who attend this meeting almost every week as well. Jonathan is somebody who has spent time in the legal field doing a number of different things, but I've invited him here today because he has an understanding and a history of supporting people with carceral histories. So, Jonathan, I will turn it over to you. If you could maybe just start by telling us a little bit about your practice.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. When it comes to these types of programs with education and reentry, I think to me they should go hand in hand. And as Pat mentioned, the reason that I started going to these Maine reentry network meetings was because I got to know the organization, and the thing that stuck out for me when I was district attorney was the fact that the recidivism levels for people involved with MERN were so much lower than people who just went straight on to probation, or if they were done with their time, they just went straight out onto their own. And that's really sad to see. And this is prior to the pandemic that these numbers were there. And so MERN didn't have as much access into the facilities as they do now, thanks to Zoom. As strange as this sounds, that was actually one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic was the access that MERN got to the facilities. But again, it's when there's support networks out there, it's the chances that people have of basically finding a sort of normalcy that's going to help them and help their families, help their friends, help the community is so much higher when there's these support systems. And so education is such a key aspect of that, and not just any education, but something that somebody really is going to have a passion, a desire to learn. And so one of the things that we really started seeing is I worked with a woman named Margot Walsh who runs a program called Mainworks in Portland. And Margot started this company back in, I think, the early or about the 2010s, really just trying to get people who were convicted felons jobs. And she knew that there were a lot of people out there that just had so many doors closed to them because of a felony conviction that she really was trying to kind of slam open that door and say, you guys are missing a key part of this, or of our community, who are there. They want to work. They should be working. Give them an opportunity, and it's going to work out well for you. And she's proven it, that it has. And so Margot and I started really working to try to get in touch with people who, employers, large employers, to kind of find out why there were these roadblocks for people who were trying to find jobs. um, because they had convictions. And quite frankly, the answer that we really got, without people saying, well, this is because of this, it was really all about stigma. And it was one of those things where, unfortunately, because there is that sort of thing, that felony conviction, quote unquote, that goes along with people, once they have that conviction, that it can really be harmful. And so we started really trying to make sure people understood that and this is my sort of looking into the data, the reason that so many people are involved in the criminal justice system is because of substance use disorder. And it's unfortunate that we're pretty much still in the midst of it, but we're making some progress. But with the opioid epidemic that came out, I mean, I don't know how old you all are, but I was born in 1979, and I thank my lucky stars that I wasn't born in 1989, because I think if I had been, I would not have as many friends these days, because I would have lost them to overdose deaths. And it's something where we have such a large part of the population that really got into this mess, really got sick with the substance use disorder, because of just the prevalence of prescriptions and pharmaceutical drugs that were out there. And it's something where a lot of those individuals, because of trauma and because of self-medication and because of developing that substance use disorder, got involved with the criminal justice system. And I think as a former prosecutor, as a former district attorney, I can say that most of those people would not have been involved with the criminal justice system had they not gotten it, or developed a substance use disorder. But because they had, they now walk around with this felony conviction, which sticks with them. So it's really, to me, a lot about breaking down barriers and making employers understand that individuals are not, the definition of this individual should not be on their worst day of what happened. There's so much more to it. But it's kind of can be a hard sell sometimes. And I think the more and more people understand substance use disorder, and quite frankly, the more and more people see that there are other people in their lives who they know aren't quote unquote bad people, but they just got hung up in the criminal justice system, those barriers kind of shut down a little bit. Excuse me. As you can probably hear, I'm suffering from a pretty bad cold right now. So that was sort of the one part about employees. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is just the idea of when people are applying for jobs, and the kind of the two types of criminal histories that go out there. And as people probably know, when people can do quote unquote record checks about people. Now, there are two different types of record checks that they have. There's one that goes through law enforcement that really kind of tells the history of everybody. But in order to to see these records, you all need to know that people need to be what's called CJIS certified, which is the Criminal Justice Information System, which is not open to the public. You really need to be involved in law enforcement to have access to this. So, district attorney's office, attorney general's office, law enforcement agencies, either police departments or state troopers or federal agencies, they're really the only ones that see that. And that's really a lot about arrest records. So if somebody gets arrested and the charge gets dismissed, technically that person does not have a conviction. It's really only about the actual conviction that people face. Now, there are a lot more things out there. As people might know, there's things called deferred dispositions or continuations without a finding. That's what they're called in Massachusetts. That really people admit to sufficient facts, but at the end, because they do a good job and stay out of trouble for a year or 2 years, whatever it is, that case then the guilty plea gets withdrawn and dismissed. But a lot of questions that you see on employment applications ask that question about whether or not you've ever admitted to sufficient facts or had a guilty version or a guilty finding dismissed. The thing that I always tell people is tell the truth, because one, you don't know what access they're going to have, and another is it's a lot easier to sort of explain what happened and why something happened back then, as opposed to why you lied on your application just now. And if you have to explain to a potential employer the fact that you just lied on your application, the odds of you getting that job aren't very good. But if you can explain why something happened, or what occurred sometime, then you will be able to explain that a little bit more. I can tell you my history in my life. When I was 22 years old, I got arrested for operating under the influence of alcohol, and I went through the process, and it got broken down because it wasn't a high test down to a driving to endanger. And I took a fine, had a license lost, and that was it. Now, probably 10 years later, I was asked about that during an interview, and I told the truth. And the reason I told the truth is because, well, one, I should be telling the truth, but another is that I knew that there was going to be it was going to be lot harder to explain about why I lied about something than just fessing up to it. It's sort of that old adage, it's not the crime, it's the cover up that gets people in trouble. So I just want to make sure people kind of have that understanding that I think that there is a shift out there, that people are understanding about why criminal convictions happen, that it's not because the person is a bad person or is going to steal from an employer or anything like that. It's really because of what might have happened in their life and what led to them developing a substance use disorder. And I think the example that Haley gave about Chris Polis is a perfect example on that. And the more people hear about Chris's story, the more people understand that this is not a character flaw. This is something that actually happened to this person. And just like when you break an arm, it heals. When you get a substance use or you develop a substance use disorder, there's a good chance that your brain can heal from that, and you'll not you'll be on the right track afterwards. So I think that there's more of an understanding on that, and people are going to continue to work on reducing that stigma, especially from the employment side. So hopefully I didn't talk too long there, Pat.
No, you were fine. You need a break? Okay.
No, I'd be happy to take any questions, and I apologize if I kind of just rambled on there.
Oh, that's fine. And I'm gonna toss it to Katie for questions in a minute, but I had a couple myself. Um, can you talk about where in the application process the background check might come in the state of Maine? When does that happen?
I don't know specifically exactly. I think it's a lot to do with the employer, and usually you have to get asked the question first before they're actually going to do a background check on something. So my thought process would be that it would come probably after the application has been initially accepted by the employer, because they're not just going to run background checks on everybody. If they see somebody that's not qualified, they're not going to run a background check on that, because quite frankly, it costs money for them to do it. So I think it's usually later on in the process, but from what I know, it's usually after they've actually asked the question about it as well.
Okay.
But again, every employer's sort of different on that front.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, there's a very large employer that we spoke to that they were telling us, and obviously this is information from them, but I don't think this was a very informal conversation. This wasn't public or anything like that. And the people that I knew, actually, I knew personally, so I actually trusted. But they said that they looked through about 1,000 applications over a 3-year period, and there was only 3 people that got disqualified because of what was found in their criminal conviction, and most of those had to do with some type of sex offense. And then I think that 2 out of those 3 were also because the people didn't divulge those. So that was one of the bigger issues that they had.
Okay. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jonathan. So before we go to Q&A, I'd like to introduce Erica Connolly. Erica is an attorney with the Maine Justice Collective, and she's somebody that Erica, you and I haven't really met much, but you come highly recommended, and I appreciate what the Maine Justice Collective does. So I'm hoping that Peter and Brian can get some good information from you today about the Maine Justice Collective and about the landscape for people applying for jobs with a felony conviction. So I will turn it over to you. Could you talk about the Maine Justice Collective maybe and tell us what you do?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I am a partner at Maine Justice Collective. We are a firm that focuses primarily on providing criminal defense for indigent folks, so folks that wouldn't be able to afford an attorney otherwise. And the 3 of us met in law school, and were, just really justice oriented, I guess is the best way to put it. And really wanted to, I don't know, use our law degrees to actually like make some change. Folks that get caught up in the criminal justice system, you know, are just regular people that had a bad day or maybe didn't have a bad day and still, got arrested. And and they deserve justice. So that is what we do. Also, I just got done with a day and a half trial, so I'm a little exhausted. We did get a not guilty verdict.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So if I'm a little scattered, that is why. Um, but yeah, that is what our firm does and who we are.
Okay. So can you talk about in your experience with the clients that you've worked with, can you talk about what people coming out of prison might expect when they go to apply for a job?
Um, well, yes, there are a couple of things to expect. One would be that I don't think people really think of that often, but that there may be a gap in your employment that sometimes an employer is going to ask about, like, what were you doing during this 9-month period or these 2 years? What was going on? So that's a question that I think folks should be prepared to answer and also to be really honest about. Um, if if an employer is um, going to inquire about your um any sort of criminal history or anything like that, they do have to talk to you first about it. You have to give them permission, or they have to give you a heads up that they're going to run a background check or something like that. So in a job posting, if you see the background checks are a thing, you can know to expect that it's likely that any sort of criminal history that you've had would be brought up during the interview process. But to just be honest, um, and give as much information that you can that allows you to be answering the question fully, but don't give any extra information either. Um, One, because it's, your own private information that's not really relevant to whether or not you can do a job. Um, and you don't really want to give employers like extra, I don't know. Don't put extra emphasis on anything. No flourishes.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one more question, and then we'll throw it to Katie, and we'll have a Q&A for everybody. Have you? Nope, not going to ask that. Hold on. um, uh, are there resources out there that you refer clients to other than Maine Justice Collective, obviously, that
Yeah.
can help them when they're looking for work, when they're maybe looking for interview experience or resume writing or whatever it is that they might need? Are there resources in Maine that you have referred people to?
Yeah, absolutely. So the um Maine jobs, like the Maine Labor Department has a jobs website. And they have a list on that website of employers um that are felony friendly. So and it's an exhaustive list. So that would be a good first step for actual positions, but also the adult education or like community rec center in each town or the Grange and, some more northern areas that don't necessarily have like a community center, they offer different resume writing programs, like free classes or low cost classes to help you maybe go through some mock interviews or learn, how to put a resume together, that sort of thing. Um, there's also, um, at one point, Maine Needs was partnering with an organization that was helping folks get clothing for interviews as well. I'm not sure if they're still doing that. Um,
I believe they are. I know they've worked with some of the facilities.
oh, okay, perfect. So,
Not all of them, unfortunately. But
yeah. So they're there too.
terrific.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Haley, I know that your office offers some interview prep and resume writing as well.
Absolutely. Yep. I often have folks sending me, emailing me their resumes and cover letters, and I'll either review them through email, or if they request, we can meet one-to-one via Zoom and we can have a feedback session. I offer mock interviews to students, and on Zoom, we can record it and then watch it back, see how you did, and provide feedback that way. And we also have an online system called Big Interview. And I believe in the facilities, they can access the video curriculum. I don't think they can actually access the recording of it, of the system, but at least they can have some of that help before scheduling a mock interview with me. So, and this doesn't expire, when you're released or when you graduate, it's always available. So,
Okay, thank you.
mhm.
Okay, so at this point, I think I'll turn it over to Katie Ebert for the Q&A period.
Hey everybody. So you'll see kind of the chat function over there. You're welcome to just drop your questions inside the chat or just unmute yourself and ask them too. We'd love to hear any questions you have about this segment on kind of academics and reentry, any outstanding questions that you might have. So we'll give you a minute to go ahead and kind of drop those in the chat or just go ahead and unmute yourself and say something.
I was wondering how funding works upon release, because I know in here we're going through the Second Chance Pell Grant, right? So how does financial aid work
Yep.
transitioning to the outside?
Yes, definitely. So as you transition, there are more opportunities with aid that you're able to access. And Pat will be able to kind of talk you through some of that, as will UMA's Office of Financial Aid. So Pat, did you want to tag in and just kind of give some general examples of that?
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of information, but Jen Marchese, who is the Assistant Director for Financial Aid, works with PEP students. This is one of her targeted populations. So she's the expert. She's the one that can give you the best answers and the best context for anything about financial aid, funding, scholarships, loans, and things like that. And she's available by Zoom while you're inside. You can meet with her in person when you're in community or Zoom. So basically, when you come to community, a couple of things change with aid. One is that you become eligible for federal loans. So there is a process to taking on federal loans that Jen Marchese can guide you through. It's multi-step, and it's designed to help people understand exactly what kind of responsibility they're taking on, what kind of obligation. Pell, when you're released, when you're no longer in facility, becomes regular Pell. And that means that the money is dispersed based on your FAFSA. It is so it's dispersed to pay for tuition, to pay for books, and if there is anything left over in a particular term, then that amount would be sent to you as a refund. That's a really simple answer to a more complicated question. And again, Jen is the expert and can provide you more information on how refunds work and so on. The other thing that changes when you come out is that you order your own books. And when you order your own books, there are two ways to do it. One is that you buy the books up front and then get reimbursed through Pell. The other is that if you elect not to do that, you'll be given what's called a book voucher. And when you use that voucher, that's money already set aside from Pell that will be applied to your books. The difference is that when you use a book voucher, it's 30 days before your refund can be issued. If you pay for the books yourself, the refund can come earlier. So that's what I'm going to say about financial aid. Not an expert. And Katie, if you want to add to that.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll tag in a couple other things. So, financial aid is comprised lump sum of a couple of different types of funds. You have grants, you have scholarships, and you have loans. So when they're talking about your financial aid package, kind of post release, it's gonna encompass any of those types of funds that come together collectively to make your financial aid package, as financial aid determines which sets of money you're eligible for. Grants can cover things like, I don't make a lot of money, therefore I'm eligible for Pell. Scholarships can be based off of need, but they can also be based off of merit. So if you're pulling straight A's while you're in residence and then you're released, there may be some scholarship money available for you because you've been performing well in your classes. And then you've got the student loan portion of things. So your FAFSA is there to kind of match you with all those different pots of money. And then just wanted to kind of remind people about a couple things. So there is something called the General Scholarship Application that is only open once a year. And when it's open for the next academic year. So it was due sometime this year in March. That's for funds that you would access next year. So let's say you were released this upcoming September or October or August. You would have wanted to put that general scholarship application and submit for it the March before so that you can access those funds if you're awarded them, because it is a competitive process. But that's something that's not really planned into what you're doing right now because it's not money that you can access while you're in residence. So just be aware of that when you are released or planning for release. And then the other thing is that there are scholarships for people that are Maine residents. So let's say you want to stay inside the state of Maine after you're released. FAME, the Finance Authority of Maine, they have a whole list of scholarships that people can be eligible for. And in particular, you can find some scholarships just out there in general to support critical needs that people have. This can look like mental health and human services and people supporting that mental health work. This can look like education and becoming a teacher. It can also look like IT sometimes and that computer background. So, there's lots of opportunity out there, and you're welcome to kind of string together any scholarships that you want to support you during your academics. And if you want help on what that looks like, we do have UMA's Office of Financial Aid, but Maine also has MEOC. And MEOC has a rep who can sit down and talk you through all of those private scholarship application options as well. So you can kind of collectively create whatever you need to be academically successful and financially supported while doing college. Any follow-up questions to that, Brian, or anybody else?
I think it answers it pretty well. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so let's open it up to any other questions at all. Anything that anybody has. All right, I'll give you guys a second to think just in case. Erica, I really liked your point that you were talking about earlier during your presentation about that fine line of answering the question enough, but not divulging too much information. And I would definitely encourage students to practice that before you get to the interview, because it's a very tricky one. You know, humans in general, we like to talk about ourselves, and, you know, that can be a fantastic thing. But how do you say something and not say too much to kind of overwhelm the people, or to give away information that you maybe didn't need to, that somebody might be judging you on? That can be a fine line to walk. So I definitely would encourage anybody looking for jobs, and record or no record, to figure out how to kind of answer those types of questions and present yourself in the best possible light. Um, because I think it's deceptively hard to do. It feels easy, and then, you know, you can quickly enter into the territory of accidentally oversharing. All right. Any other questions from anybody else? Okay. No worries. We're happy to end a little early. That's not a problem. But please do keep in mind that this is a two-part series. So today's job was really about us, you know, kind of connecting with you with information about academics and a little bit of that re-entry process. We do have a second part to this series next week, and I'm going to pass it over to Haley to give a little preview of what that's going to look like.
Sure, thank you, Katie. So let me bring up my little thing here, and it involves we have some folks coming in for a panel discussion, and I believe we're going to have at least one formerly incarcerated individual coming in to talk about their experiences. Pat, am I correct in that assumption?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And let's see. We also are going to have, so we have at least one individual, and then we're also going to be having a panel of resources. We're going to be having somebody from the Maine Reentry Network, the Department of Labor, I believe, and then I'm also going to be going into more detail about the services that the Career Connections program can provide to you while a residence and post-release. So, and then we'll also have another Q&A. So, lots of good stuff.
Very good. Well, I want to thank Erica and Jonathan for your time here and for your expertise. And thank you to Brian and Peter for attending. Please come next week as well and bring some friends. Thank you to Haley for all of your information and for all the good work you do with Career Connections. And thank you, Katie. I think that's it, unless Brian or Peter, you have a last minute question. Okay. So hope to see many of you again next week.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.